His infertile wife was abandoned. Billionaire father-in-law couldn't believe the twins. She turned to him then, eyes glistening, not with tears, but with the quiet ache of a woman who had memorized the weight of disappointment. "Daniel, do you ever wonder if love is enough?" He looked away, just for a second, just long enough for her heart to crack open a little more. "Livia," he began, voice low, strained. "You know how important this is. For him, for the company, for us. For us." She let out a breath. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. "When was the last time us mattered more than them?" He reached for her hand, squeezed it. "I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying." She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean in either. Trying to love me, or trying to fix me? The question hung between them like a blade. Before he could answer, Augusto Montebello's voice boomed through the speakers, commanding the room into silence. Tall, silver-haired, draped in power like a second suit, he stood at the podium, glass raised. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "To family," he began, voice smooth as aged whiskey. "To tradition, to bloodlines that outlive empires." He paused, gaze sweeping the room until it landed, deliberately, cruelly, on Livia. "And to the future we are all responsible for building." A polite applause rippled through the crowd. Livia didn't move. Her fingers curled around the stem of her untouched champagne flute. Daniel leaned closer. "Don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene," she whispered. "I'm just standing here, existing. Isn't that what you married me for? To exist beautifully beside you." He swallowed hard. "Livia, please." She turned to face him fully then. Her eyes, deep brown, flecked with gold, searched his. "Do you remember our wedding night? You told me, no matter what happens, I'll choose you. Do you remember that?" His throat bobbed. "I remember." "Then why?" Her voice cracked, just slightly. "Does it feel like you've been choosing everyone else ever since?" The toast ended. The crowd dispersed. Augusto descended from the podium, his path cutting straight toward them. His smile was gone now. All that remained was calculation. "Livia, my dear," he said, voice dripping with false warmth. "You're looking rested. I trust the last round of treatments went well." She didn't blink. "No, Augusto, they didn't." His expression didn't change. Not a flicker. "Ah, well, modern medicine is full of surprises. Perhaps next time." "There won't be a next time," she said, quiet but firm. "The doctors were clear. My body won't carry a child." For the first time in her life, she saw something flicker in Augusto's eyes. Not pity, not sadness, disappointment, cold, clinical, devastating. "I see," he murmured. Then, to Daniel, without looking at him, "We'll discuss options tomorrow. 9 a.m. My office." And just like that, he walked away. Daniel stood frozen beside her. "Livia, I'm sorry. I didn't know didn't know." She let out a soft, broken laugh. "Daniel, he's been scheduling my OBGYN appointments since we got married. He has my medical files color-coded. He knew. He just waited for the right moment to remind everyone." She turned toward the balcony, stepping into the cold night air. Rain kissed her cheeks, mingling with the tears she refused to let fall in front of them. Daniel followed. "Livia, wait." "Why?" she asked, voice trembling now. "So you can tell me it'll be okay? That we'll figure it out? That maybe if I just try harder, eat better, meditate more, take more pills, swallow more humiliation, maybe then my body will obey your father's timeline." He reached for her. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I hear it in the silence, in the way you look at me when he speaks, in the way you flinch when I cry. You're ashamed of me, Daniel, not because I can't give you children, but because I'm making it hard for you to be the son he wants." He didn't deny it. The rain fell harder now. Thunder rolled in the distance. She closed her eyes. "I married you because I believed in us," she whispered, "because I thought love could be enough. But here, in this world, love is just decoration. It's the frame, not the painting. And when the painting is blank, when there's no heir, no legacy, no future to auction off, the frame gets thrown away. He stepped closer. I won't let that happen. She opened her eyes, looked at him, really looked, saw the fear behind his resolve, the weakness beneath his strength. You already did, she said softly. You just haven't signed the papers yet. He didn't reply, couldn't. The truth sat between them like a corpse no one wanted to bury. Inside, the party continued. Laughter, music, the clinking of glasses celebrating a future that didn't include her. She turned away from him, from the mansion, from the life she had tried so desperately to fit into. I need air, she said. Real air, not this perfume-covered suffocation. He didn't stop her. She walked down the stone steps into the garden, barefoot now, the cold grass kissing her soles. The rain soaked her dress, her hair, her skin. And for the first time in months, maybe years, she felt something. Alive. Not as Daniel's wife, not as Augusto's failed project. Just Livia, alone, broken, but breathing. And somewhere, deep beneath the ache, beneath the abandonment, beneath the diagnosis that had become her identity, a tiny, stubborn spark refused to die. She didn't know it yet, but that spark would become a fire. And from that fire, miracles would be born. Twins, a redemption, a reckoning. But for now, she stood in the rain and let herself feel everything. The grief, the rage, the loneliness, and the quiet, terrifying whisper of hope, the kind that only blooms in the dark. She didn't know it yet, but her story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. And the world, especially the man who abandoned her and the father-in-law who couldn't believe what was coming, would never be the same again. Certo, agora tu como narrador e storyteller desenvolva a historia sem marcacos com o nome de cada topico que for desenvolve. Mi conti sobrio topico tu com dialogo como su faço espectador. Sempre lembrando de desenvolver com vida emoco. Com os sentimentos de forma que a estrutura de narrativa utiliza uma linha temporal linear de modo o espectador sentir o que o personagem está sentindo amigos. Com 6.000 characters com 3 max. Preview the morning sun sliced through the heavy velvet curtains of the Montebello dining room like an intruder, sharp, unwelcome, exposing everything it touched. Livia sat at the long mahogany table, fingers curled around a porcelain teacup that had long gone cold. She didn't drink. She didn't move. She just existed, waiting, always waiting. Across from her, Augusto Montebello ate his breakfast with surgical precision. Knife gliding through poached eggs, toast buttered in perfect diagonal strokes. He didn't look at her. Not yet. He was making her wait, making her feel the weight of her failure before he even spoke. Daniel sat to her right, eyes fixed on his phone, thumb scrolling endlessly, avoiding her gaze, avoiding the silence, avoiding the war about to erupt. The only sound was the clink of silverware and the slow, suffocating tick of the grandfather clock in the corner. Then Augusto set his knife down. The sound was soft. It shattered the room. Livia, he began, voice smooth as polished marble. I've arranged a new consultation for you in Zurich. World-renowned fertility specialist, Dr. Reinhardt. He's helped 3 royal families conceive. I expect you to be on the 8 a.m. flight tomorrow. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stared at him, her voice calm, quiet, a lake hiding a storm beneath. I won't go. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Daniel's head snapped up. Livia, I said, she repeated, slower this time, firmer. I won't go. Augusto leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. His eyes, cold, gray, unreadable, locked onto hers. And why is that? Because I'm done, she whispered. I'm done being poked, prodded, measured, weighed, judged. I'm done being treated like a malfunctioning machine that needs to be fixed before the shareholders notice. A muscle twitched in Augusto's jaw. This isn't about shareholders. This is about legacy, about blood. about the future of everything my father built, everything I built, and everything Daniel will inherit. He turned to his son then, voice sharpening. Daniel, tell your wife what's at stake. Daniel swallowed, looked at Livia, looked away. Livia, please, just this one last time. For me. Her heart cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet fissure, deep and irreversible. For you. Her voice trembled now. Or for him. She pointed at Augusto, the man who had never hugged her, never asked how her day was, never remembered her birthday, the man who looked at her like she was a contract that needed renegotiating. Daniel's face twisted. It's not that simple, isn't it? She stood now, chair scraping against marble. You want me to fly across the world so a stranger can inject me with hormones that make me bleed between my legs for weeks. So I can lie on a table while machines scan my insides like I'm a broken engine. So I can come home empty-handed again and watch you look at me like I've disappointed you. Her voice broke. Just a little. Just enough. And then what, Daniel? What happens when Zurich doesn't work? When Tokyo doesn't work? When the next miracle doctor, the next experimental drug, the next last chance fails? Will you still look at me like I'm yours? Or will you finally admit what you've been thinking all along? That I'm not enough? Augusto stood now too. Slow, deliberate, towering. Enough of this emotional nonsense. You married into this family knowing what was expected. You signed the prenup. You wore the ring. You sat at this table. Now you will do your duty. Livia turned to him, eyes blazing. My duty? Is that what you call it? My duty to bleed for you? To cry in bathrooms while your guests toast to future heirs? To lie awake at night wondering if my husband still loves me? Or if he's just waiting for the day he can trade me in for someone more functional? Augusto's voice dropped to a whisper. Colder than winter, sharper than glass. If you walk away from this, you walk away from everything. The house, the car, the allowance, the name. You'll be nothing. She laughed then. A broken, trembling sound that echoed through the cavernous room. Nothing. She stepped closer to him, chin lifted, tears glistening but not falling. I was nothing the moment you decided my worth was tied to my womb. I was nothing when you scheduled my medical appointments before I even knew my own cycle. I was nothing when you toasted to legacy. While I sat there, hollowed out, pretending to smile, she turned to Daniel. And you let him do it. You stood by. You nodded. You signed the checks. You held my hand while they stuck needles in me. And then you went to your father's office and asked, is there a backup plan? Daniel's face paled. I never said that. You didn't have to. Her voice cracked. I saw it in your eyes every time the test came back negative. I felt it in the way you stopped touching me, in the way you started sleeping on the couch, in the way you look at children in the street, like you're mourning someone who never existed. Augusto stepped between them, voice low, dangerous. Daniel, take her upstairs, calm her down, and then pack her bags. She's leaving for Zurich in the morning. Daniel reached for her arm. Livia, please. She yanked away. Don't touch me. The words hung in the air like shattered glass. She turned toward the hallway, toward the staircase, toward the gilded cage she called it. He flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? A tear slipped free, the first in weeks. She didn't wipe it away. You're giving him exactly what he wants. Distance. Control. Time to find a replacement. I would never replace you, he choked out. Then why are you letting him send me away? Because I'm trying to save us. His voice cracked. Don't you see that? If you stay here, he'll grind you into dust. He'll schedule more treatments, more humiliations, more public check-ins disguised as family brunches. I can't watch that happen again, Livia. I can't. She looked out the window again, at the moon, at the trees swaying like they were mourning something. And if I say no? She whispered. If I refuse to go? He was quiet for a long time. Then, so quietly she almost didn't hear it. Then he'll file for annulment, and he'll win. The air left her lungs. Not because she didn't believe him, But because she knew with terrifying certainty that he was right, Augusto didn't make idle threats. He made blueprints, and if she stayed, she wouldn't just lose Daniel. She'd lose herself completely. So she nodded, just once. Slow, final. Okay, she whispered. I'll go. Daniel exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. He reached for her again. This time, she let him take her hand. His fingers trembled against hers. Thank you, he breathed. I promise, I'll come visit. Every weekend. I'll call every day. Don't promise me anything. She cut him off, voice gentle but firm. Promises are what broke us. He closed his eyes, nodded. They sat like that for a long time. Hands clasped, shoulders touching, hearts miles apart. 3 days later, a black town car idled in the driveway. Livia stood at the front door with a single suitcase. Small, practical. Nothing like the Louis Vuitton trunks Augusto's assistants usually packed for her trips. She wore jeans, sneakers, a sweater Daniel had bought her on their honeymoon. Her hair was tied back. No makeup, no perfume. She looked like herself. For the first time in years. Augusto didn't come to say goodbye. Of course he didn't. Daniel walked her to the car, held the door open, didn't cry, didn't beg her to stay, just pressed a kiss to her forehead, lingering, trembling, and whispered, I'll find my way back to you. I swear it. She didn't reply, just climbed into the car, rolled down the window, looked at him one last time, and then she was gone. The driver didn't speak, just merged onto the highway, heading north, away from the city, away from the estate, away from the life that had slowly suffocated her. She watched the skyline shrink in the rearview mirror, watched until the towers disappeared, until the noise faded, until all that remained was the hum of tires on asphalt and the deafening silence inside her chest. Hours passed. Mountains rose in the distance. Trees thickened. Roads narrowed. Civilization thinned. And then, the car turned onto a gravel path, winding up a hill, toward a small stone cottage nestled between pines and wildflowers. It was beautiful, quiet, empty, just like her. The driver helped her with her bag, handed her an envelope. From Mr. Montebello, he said stiffly. She opened it. Inside, a single key, and a note, typed, no signature, no warmth, no humanity. Rest. Recover. Reflect. We will reassess in 6 months. She crumpled the paper, dropped it, let the wind carry it away. Then she walked to the porch, unlocked the door, stepped inside. The air smelled of wood smoke and pine and something else. Something wild, untamed, alive. She set her bag down, walked to the window, looked out at the valley below. And for the first time in 2 years, she took a full, deep, unguarded breath. No one was watching. No one was judging. No one was waiting for her to fail. She was alone, truly, utterly alone. And yet, something inside her, something she thought had died, stirred. A whisper, a pulse, a spark. She didn't know it yet, but this wasn't an ending. This was a beginning. And in this quiet, forgotten place, her body, the same body they had labeled broken, barren, useless, was already beginning to change, already beginning to heal, already beginning to prepare for twins, for miracles, for revenge dressed in innocence. But for now, she walked to the kitchen, boiled water, made tea, sat on the porch, and watched the sun sink behind the mountains. Alone, but not broken, not anymore, because sometimes the deepest healing begins in the quietest places. And the greatest revolutions, they start with a single step, away, into the unknown. She woke with the sun, made coffee in a chipped enamel pot, sat on the porch with a book, real paper, dog-eared, smelling of old libraries and forgotten afternoons. She walked, every day, down the gravel road, past the wild blackberry bushes, along the creek where the water sang over smooth stones. She walked until her legs ached, until her lungs burned clean, until the city, the mansion, the expectations, the humiliation felt like a fever dream fading in daylight. And then, she met her, Dona Marta, an old woman, back bent like a question mark, skin like sun-baked leather, eyes sharp as flint, who lived 2 miles down the road in a house draped in climbing roses and wind chimes. She appeared one morning as Livia sat by the creek, toes dipped in icy water, staring at nothing. "You look like you're waiting for sorrow to find you again," the woman said, voice raspy as dry leaves. Livia, startled, turned. The woman didn't wait for invitation, just sat beside her on the mossy rock, basket of herbs in her lap. "I'm Marta," she said, "midwife, herbalist, listener of secrets, healer of hearts, if the heart wants to be healed." Livia didn't answer, just watched the water. Marta didn't push, just plucked a sprig of rosemary, crushed it between her fingers, and let the scent bloom between them. "City girl," Marta murmured, "running from something, or someone." "Both," Livia whispered, the first word she'd spoken to another soul in days. Marta nodded, like she already knew, like she'd seen the story before. "Good," she said. "The mountains don't care about your past, only what you bring into them. And you, child, you brought fire, quiet fire, but fire all the same." Livia finally looked at her. "I don't feel like fire," Marta smiled, slow, knowing. "That's because you're letting them tell you you're ash." A silence. Then softer. "Who told you that?" Livia looked away. "My husband, his father, the doctors, the world." Marta snorted. "Doctors?" She spat the word like it tasted bitter. "They see the body like a machine, break it down, label the parts, throw away what doesn't fit their manuals." She turned to Livia, eyes blazing. "But the body ain't a machine, girl. It's a temple, a storm, a song. And sometimes, it just needs silence, space, earth under its feet, moonlight on its skin." Livia's throat tightened. "They said I can't have children." Marta didn't flinch, didn't offer empty comfort, just studied her, long, deep, like reading the lines of a sacred text. "Who said that?" she asked again. "Specialists, tests, scans, blood work, all of it." Marta nodded slowly. "And did any of them ask you how your heart sleeps at night, how your dreams taste, whether you still laugh when no one's watching?" Livia blinked, shook her head. "Then they didn't treat you," Marta said firmly. "They treated a chart, a number, a diagnosis, not the woman." She reached into her basket, pulled out a small clay jar, uncorked it. The scent, earthy, sweet, alive, filled the air. "Drink this every morning," she said, handing it to Livia, "with warm water, before sunrise, and walk barefoot in the grass. Let the earth remember you." Livia took the jar, hesitant. "What is it?" "Motherwort, red raspberry, wild yam, a little moonflower for dreaming." Marta winked. "And a pinch of stubborn hope." Livia almost smiled. "Almost. Why are you helping me?" Marta stood, groaning as she stretched her back. "Because I've seen too many women broken by men who think love is a contract. And too many children never born because someone decided their mother wasn't enough." She patted Livia's shoulder. "You're enough, girl, even if you never carry a child. But your body, it ain't done with you yet. I can feel it." And with that, she walked away, humming an old folk song, basket swaying at her hip. Livia sat there for a long time. Then she uncorked the jar, took a sip, tasted like roots, like rain, like something ancient waking up inside her. Weeks passed. She drank the tea, walked barefoot, slept with windows open, let the moon bathe her skin. She stopped counting the days since she left the city, stopped checking her phone for Daniel's missed calls. There were none, by the way, not one, just silence, just absence. She didn't hate him, not yet, but she stopped waiting for him too. And then one morning she woke up nauseous. Not the city stress kind, the deep in her bones, can't keep tea down, head spinning kind. She stumbled to the bathroom, vomited, sat on the cold tile floor, forehead pressed against the tub. Food poisoning, she told herself, or the herbs, or the altitude, but her body, it didn't feel sick, felt awake, hyper-aware, sensitive. Her breasts ached, her skin tingled, her dreams, vivid, swirling, full of running through fields holding tiny hands she didn't recognize. She ignored it until the morning she missed her period. Stress, she whispered, until the morning she woke up crying for no reason, sobbing into her pillow like her soul was splitting open. Hormones, grief, loneliness, until the morning she stood in front of the mirror, nightgown clinging to her waist, just a little tighter than before, and whispered, "No, it's not possible." But her body, it didn't care about possible, cared about truth. She walked to town, bought a pregnancy test, hid it under her sweater like a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. That night, by candlelight, because the power had gone out again and she'd stopped caring. She took the test, set it on the sink, walked away, couldn't look, couldn't breathe, counted to 60. 1, 2, 3. Her hands shook. Her heart hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape. She turned, looked, one line, just one. She exhaled relief, disappointment, she didn't know. Then, as she watched, a second line bloomed. Faint, but there, positive. She dropped the test, staggered back, slid down the wall, hand over her mouth. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." But the test didn't lie. She grabbed it again, shook it, stared. Still 2 lines. She ran to the bedroom, grabbed her phone, scrolled for the nearest clinic, 40 miles away. Open on Tuesdays. Tuesday was 3 days away. She spent those days in a daze. Didn't eat, didn't sleep, just touched her stomach, over and over, like checking for a heartbeat she couldn't feel yet, like begging her body, "Is this real? Are you really doing this? After everything?" The morning of the appointment, she walked to Marta's house, knocked. Marta opened the door, took one look at her face, and pulled her inside without a word. Livia didn't speak, just handed her the test. Marta looked, smiled, closed her eyes, whispered something in a language Livia didn't know. Then she hugged her, tight, fierce, trembling. "I knew it," she murmured. "I felt it." Livia pulled back, eyes wild, terrified. "How? How is this possible? They said I couldn't." "Doctors don't know everything," Marta said firmly, "especially when it comes to miracles. But, and especially," Marta cut her off, voice dropping to a whisper, "when it comes to twins." Livia froze. "What?" Marta placed a hand on her belly, closed her eyes again. 2 heartbeats, faint, but there, like little drums. 1 boy, 1 girl, strong, stubborn, just like their mama. Livia's knees buckled. Marta caught her. "You're not broken, child," she whispered, holding her close. "You were just waiting for the right soil to bloom." Livia sobbed great, gasping, soul-shaking sobs. Not from joy, not from fear, from recognition. Her body, the same body they had labeled defective, barren, unworthy, had defied them all, had grown life. Twins, not 1, 2, a boy, a girl, a miracle wrapped in rebellion. She clutched Marta's arms. "No one can know, no one, not yet, not ever, if I can help it." Marta nodded. "Your secret's safe with the mountains, and with me." Livia looked out the window, at the wildflowers, the pines, the endless sky, and for the first time since she left the mansion, she didn't feel like a ghost. She felt like a goddess, a quiet, trembling, terrified goddess, but a goddess all the same, because deep inside her, beneath the fear, beneath the silence, beneath the scars left by men who thought they owned her future, 2 tiny hearts were beating, and they didn't care about legacies, or boardrooms, or billionaires. But no, the birds still sang, the creek still whispered, the wind still carried the scent of pine and wild thyme. And Livia, she sat on Marta's porch, knees pulled to her chest, fingers pressed against her still flat belly, heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst through her ribs. 2 heartbeats, 2 souls, 2 miracles wrapped in flesh and fury. Marta sat beside her, silent now, the kind of silence that holds space for earthquakes. "I can't tell him," Livia whispered, voice raw, trembling. "Not Daniel, not Augusto, not anyone." Marta didn't ask why. She already knew. "Good," she said simply. "Secrets kept in sacred soil grow the strongest roots." Livia turned to her, eyes wide, wet, terrified. What if they find out? What if he comes here? What if Augusto sends someone? What if... Marta placed a gnarled hand over hers. "Hush, child. Fear is a thief. It steals the joy before the miracle even blooms." Livia swallowed hard. "But what do I do? I can't stay here forever. I can't raise them in hiding. I have no money, no job, no..." You... Marta cut in, voice firm as stone. "And you have me, and you have these mountains. And that's more than most mothers ever get." Livia closed her eyes, breathed, in. She thought of Daniel's last words. "I'll find my way back to you." Empty. She thought of Augusto's typed note. "We will reassess in 6 months." Clinical, cold, calculated. She thought of the doctors, the charts, the pitying glances, the whispered, "Poor thing. She'll never be a mother." And then she thought of the 2 heartbeats inside her. Tiny, fierce, uninvited, unstoppable. She opened her eyes, looked at Marta. "What do I need to do?" she asked, voice steadier now. "To keep them safe. To keep me safe." Marta smiled, slow, proud, ancient. "First," she said, standing, pulling Livia up with her, "you learn to trust your body again. It's done the impossible. It'll do more." She led her inside, to a small wooden table cluttered with jars, dried herbs, bundles of sage, and leather-bound journals filled with handwritten remedies. "Second," Marta continued, "you learn to work, not for them, for you, for them." She pointed to Livia's belly. "You'll need money, quiet money, honest money, not Montebello money, not tainted money, your money." Livia nodded. "I can sew. I used to, before the mansion, before the galas. I made my own dresses, mended things. I was good at it." Marta's eyes gleamed. "Perfect. Old Mrs. Callahan down the road runs the general store. She sells handmade quilts, aprons, baby clothes. Tourists pay good for that rustic charm. I'll talk to her. You start tomorrow." Livia's hands flew to her stomach instinctively. "But what if someone sees me? What if they recognize me? What if..." "No one knows you here," Marta said firmly. "You're not Livia Montebello, failed wife, barren heiress. You're Livia from the cottage by the creek. Quiet girl, good hands, kind eyes. That's all they need to know." Livia exhaled, long, slow, shaky. She looked down at her belly again. "You hear that?" she whispered, voice breaking. "We're going to be okay. I promise you. I'll protect you. I'll fight for you. I'll be enough for you." Marta watched her, eyes glistening. "That's the first vow of motherhood, child. And the most sacred." The next morning, Livia walked to the general store. A squat, red-painted building with a creaky porch and a bell that jingled when you opened the door. Mrs. Callahan, round-faced, silver-bunned, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, took one look at her and said, "Marta sent you. You're the seamstress." Livia nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Callahan didn't ask for references, didn't ask where she came from, just handed her a bolt of soft cotton. "Make me 3 baby gowns. Simple. No lace. Strong seams. I'll pay you 20 each." Livia's hands trembled as she took the fabric. $20. It was nothing in the world she'd left behind. It was everything in the world she was building. She worked that night by candlelight, needle flashing, thread pulling, fingers moving with a rhythm she thought she'd forgotten. She stitched tiny stars into the hems, little moons along the collars, secret blessings for babies she didn't know yet, but already loved with a ferocity that terrified her. She cried as she sewed, Not sad tears. Not scared tears. Fierce tears. Tears of a woman who had been told she was empty and was now overflowing. Weeks passed. Her belly stayed hidden beneath loose sweaters and aprons. She walked more slowly now, rested more often, drank Marta's teas now laced with ginger for nausea, nettle for strength, chamomile for sleep. She saved every dollar, hid it in a tin box beneath the floorboard. She memorized the due date Marta gave her, counting backwards from the day she'd taken the test, from the day her body had whispered, "I'm not done with you." She didn't call Daniel, didn't check a man, lost, desperate, trembling. He saw her belly. His breath caught. His hands flew to his mouth. "Oh God," he choked out. "Oh God, Livia, you really are." She didn't smile, didn't step aside, just stood there, blocking the doorway, arms crossed over her stomach. "How long?" he whispered. 6 months. His face crumpled. "You didn't tell me. You didn't call." He flinched. "I tried. Your phone?" "I changed the number." He nodded, swallowed hard. "I deserved that." She didn't deny it. He took a step forward. She didn't stop him. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him, stood dripping on her rug, eyes never leaving her belly. "Can I?" He reached out, then pulled back. "Can I touch?" She didn't answer, didn't move. He dropped his hand. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything, for letting him send you away, for not fighting harder, for not being the man you needed, for not being the man I wanted to be." She finally looked at him, really looked, saw the shadows under his eyes, the weight in his shoulders, the guilt in his gaze, and for the first time since he left her at the mansion gates, she felt something, not love, not yet, but recognition. This wasn't the Daniel who bowed to Augusto. This was the Daniel who once held her in the rain and didn't care if his suit got ruined. The Daniel who kissed her forehead when she cried over burnt toast. The Daniel who whispered, "You're my forever." On their wedding night, he was still in there, buried, but alive. "Why now?" she asked again, voice softer now. "Really, why now?" He looked at her, eyes glistening. "Because I woke up last week and realized I don't want his empire. I don't want his approval. I don't want his name if it means losing you." He took a shaky breath. "I want you, and if there's a baby, I want to be there, not as Augusto Montebello's heir, but as your husband, as their father, however you'll let me." She studied him, saw the truth in his eyes, saw the fear, saw the hope, and deep inside her, a tiny, traitorous spark. Hope. She turned away, walked to the fire, stoked it, didn't look at him. "You can stay tonight," she said quietly. "There's a cot in the back room. Don't come in here after dark. Don't touch me. Don't ask questions." He nodded. "Thank you." She didn't reply, just stood by the fire, hands on her belly, feeling the twins shift inside her. Restless, curious, alive. Daniel didn't move from the doorway, didn't speak, just watched her, like she was a miracle he didn't deserve. And maybe she was, but she wasn't his to claim. Not yet, because trust, that wasn't stitched back together in one rainy night. It was earned, stitch by stitch, day by day, kick by kick. And Livia, she wasn't done testing him. Not even close, because the woman who once believed in fairy tales, she was gone. The woman standing here, she believed in proof, in actions, in time. And if Daniel wanted back in, he'd have to bleed for it, just like she had, just like their children would one day demand. But for tonight, she let him stay. And that was mercy, not forgiveness, not yet, but mercy. And in the quiet crackle of the fire, in the rhythm of the rain, in the secret kicks of 2 unborn souls, he slept on the cot in the back room like a penitent monk. Quiet, respectful, folding his suit each morning like it was still armor he hadn't fully shed. He chopped wood without being asked, fixed the leak in the roof, carried buckets from the well, made tea in the mornings. Black, no sugar, just how she liked it, and left it steaming on the table before stepping outside to give her space. He didn't speak unless spoken to, didn't look at her belly unless she turned away first, didn't mention Augusto, didn't mention the past, didn't mention the future. He just was, and that, more than anything, unnerved her. Because the Daniel she remembered, he filled rooms, he commanded attention, he scheduled his life in 15-minute increments. He spoke in bullet points and boardroom projections. This Daniel, he moved like a ghost trying not to haunt. And yet, when she caught him watching her from the window, eyes soft, fingers twitching like he wanted to reach out but didn't dare, when she heard him whispering lullabies to the twins at night, standing outside her door, voice trembling with awe, when she saw him kneel in the garden, planting wildflowers because Marta told him babies liked color, she felt it, the crack, the tiny, treacherous fracture in the wall she'd built around her heart. And she hated it, because hope was dangerous. Hope made you vulnerable. Hope made you believe in men who broke promises. Hope made you forget how it felt to be abandoned. Then the call came. She was in the kitchen, kneading dough for bread, humming softly to the twins. A habit she'd picked up, talking to them like they could hear her. They could, Marta insisted. Souls listen long before ears form. Daniel was outside, hanging laundry, sleeves rolled up, sunlight catching the sweat on his neck. The phone rang. Old landline, rotary dial. Marta's idea, no signals, no tracking, just voices. Livia wiped her hands, answered. Livia, Augusto's voice, smooth, cold, precise, cut through the line like a scalpel. It's time we spoke. Her blood turned to ice. She didn't answer, didn't hang up, just stood there, breath trapped in her lungs, fingers gripping the receiver like it might save her. I know Daniel's with you, Augusto continued, voice low, controlled. I tracked his credit card, the rental, the gas stations. Pathetic, really, selling his Patek to drive up a mountain like a lovesick teenager. She closed her eyes, felt the baby's shift, restless, sensing her fear. Say something, Livia, or I'll assume you've lost your voice along with your dignity. She swallowed, forced her voice steady. What do you want, Augusto? Paused, then a sigh, like he was disappointed she'd even asked. I want my heir. Her stomach dropped. You don't get to claim what you tried to erase. I don't claim you, he said, voice sharpening. I claim blood, Montebello blood, and if that child or children are mine by lineage, then they are mine by right. Children, he knew, or suspected. Her knees nearly buckled. How? Daniel may think he's hiding from me, Augusto cut in, but he forgets. I raised him. I know how he breathes, how he breaks, and right now, he's breaking for you, which means you're carrying, and given the timeline, it's mine. Yours. Her voice cracked. You think you can just claim them? Like stocks? Like property? I don't think, he said, icy calm. I know. And if you think hiding in the woods with my son playing farmer poet will protect you, you're even more naive than I believed. She pressed a hand to her belly, felt a kick, strong, defiant. They're not yours, she whispered. They are, he said. Legally, biologically, financially. And if you force my hand, Livia, I will take them from you before they take their first breath. You have no money, no name, no legal standing. You're a ghost, and ghosts don't raise Montebello heirs. The line went dead. She stood there, trembling, receiver still pressed to her ear, heart hammering like a trapped bird. Then footsteps. Daniel appeared in the doorway, eyes wide, panicked. Who was that? She didn't answer, just looked at him, really looked, saw the fear in his eyes, saw the guilt, saw the boy who'd been trained to obey. And for the first time since he arrived, she didn't see the man she loved. She saw the man who might betray her. Again. Was it him? Daniel asked, stepping closer. My father. She handed him the phone. He took it, looked at the receiver, looked back at her. What did he say? She walked past him, to the window, to the mountains, to the life she'd built. He said he's coming for them. Daniel's face paled. No, I won't let him. She turned, eyes blazing. You won't let him? Daniel, he tracked you. He knew you were here. He knew about the twins. What else have you told him? What else have you shown him? I didn't tell him anything. Daniel's voice cracked. I swear, Livia, I haven't spoken to him in months. Not since I left. He's watching me. He's always watching. Then why did you come here? She whispered. Why now? Was it really for me? Or was it because he let you come? Because he wanted you to find me? To soften me up? To make me trust you again? So he can rip them away when I'm not looking? Daniel staggered back like she'd slapped him. No, he choked out. God, Livia, no. I came because I love you. Because I miss you. Because I'm terrified of losing you again. She laughed, bitter, broken. You already lost me, Daniel. The day you let him send me away. The day you chose silence over fight. The day you became his puppet instead of my husband. He fell to his knees, right there, on her kitchen floor, hands pressed to his face. I'm trying, he sobbed. I'm trying to be better, to be the man you deserve, to be the father they need. But I'm scared too, scared of him, scared of failing, scared of losing you all over again. She didn't move, didn't comfort him, just watched him break. And for the first time, she didn't feel sorry for him. She felt angry, because his fear, it was the same fear that had abandoned her, that had let her cry alone, that had let her walk away. And now that she carried his children, now that she was useful again, he wanted redemption? No, redemption wasn't given. It was earned. She walked to him, stopped inches away, looked down at the man who once held her like she was the whole world. Get up, she said, voice cold as mountain stone. He looked up, tears streaking his face. Please, Livia, get up. He stood shaky, broken, hollow. She stepped closer, so close her belly nearly touched him. If you want to be their father, she whispered, voice trembling with fury and grief and something deeper, something ancient, maternal, feral. Then you have to choose. Not me, not them. You have to choose yourself. You have to stand up to him. Not tomorrow, not when it's safe. Now, before he gets here, before he tries to take them, you have to become the man who doesn't kneel, who doesn't beg, who doesn't break. He stared at her, swallowed hard. What if I can't? She placed a hand on her belly, felt the twins kick hard, synchronized like tiny fists punching the air. Then walk away now, she said softly, because if you stay and you fail them, I will never forgive you, and they'll never know you. He closed his eyes, tears fell, and then he nodded, slow, firm, final. I won't fail you, he whispered. I won't fail them. She didn't believe him, not yet, but for the first time since he arrived, she saw something in his eyes, not fear, fire, and that was a start, because the battle wasn't coming. It was already here, and Augusto, he had no idea what he was walking into, not just a mother, not just a son, but a storm, 2 heartbeats, 1 vow, and a man finally learning how to fight, for love, for family, for the miracle they almost destroyed, meant to calm the waters before the tide turns. She'd been having pains all day, dull at first, then sharper, rhythmic, insistent. Not panic, not yet, but presence. The kind that whispers, it's time, get ready. Daniel slept on the cot in the corner, fully clothed, boots by the bed, phone charging within reach. He hadn't left her side in weeks. Not since Augusto's call. Not since he'd knelt on her kitchen floor and promised, with trembling lips and tear-streaked cheeks, that he would fight. He'd meant it. She could see it in the way he watched her now, not with fear, but with focus. The way he memorized Marta's instructions. The way he stocked the pantry, filled the wood bin, checked the car's gas tank every morning, just in case. He was preparing. For birth. For battle. For both. Marta arrived just past midnight. Hood pulled low against the rain, basket slung over her arm, eyes sharp as flint. "He's coming," she said simply, setting down her things. No greeting, no small talk, just truth. Livia nodded. Didn't ask who. Didn't need to. The contractions came harder then, rolling through her like waves crashing against stone. She gritted her teeth, gripped the sheets, breathed in, out like Marta had taught her. Daniel was at her side in seconds. "Livia, look at me. Breathe with me. In and out." She did, eyes locked on his. And for the first time, she didn't see the man who'd failed her. She saw the man who was here, now, with her. In the storm, Marta lit candles, boiled water, unwrapped clean cloths, sang low, wordless songs that vibrated in Livia's bones. "You're strong, child," Marta murmured, pressing a cool cloth to her forehead. "Stronger than any man who tried to break you, stronger than any storm. These babies, they chose you, and you're gonna bring them into the world like the warrior mother you are." Livia cried out as another contraction ripped through her. Deeper, fiercer, closer. "They're coming fast," Marta said, voice calm but urgent. "Twins often do. Daniel, get the towels. Warm them by the fire. And don't you dare faint on me, boy." Daniel didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, just moved quick, sure, steady. Livia gripped his hand as the next wave hit. "Don't leave me," she gasped. "I'm not going anywhere," he whispered, pressing his forehead to hers. "Not now, not ever again." She believed him, not because he promised, but because his hands didn't shake, because his voice didn't waver, because when she screamed, raw, primal, alive, he didn't look away. He held her, he breathed with her, he fought with her. The first baby came just past 3 a.m. A boy, small, perfect, screaming like he'd been waiting his whole life to be heard. Marta placed him on Livia's chest, slick, warm, trembling, eyes squeezed shut, fingers curled like tiny fists ready for battle. Livia sobbed, great, gasping, soul-deep sobs. "My son," she whispered, voice breaking. "My beautiful, brave boy." Daniel stared, tears streaming down his face, hands trembling as he reached out, then pulled back, afraid to touch something so sacred. "Hold him," Livia whispered. "He's yours too." Daniel took him, gently, reverently, like holding a miracle made flesh. And when the baby's tiny fingers wrapped around his father's thumb, Daniel broke, not quietly, not politely. He wept, shoulders shaking, face buried in the blanket, whispering, "I'm here, son. I'm here. I'm so sorry I wasn't sooner. I'm here now. I swear it." Livia watched him, felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. Then another contraction, sharper, faster. Marta's eyes widened. The girl's impatient. She's coming now. No time to rest. No time to recover. Livia gritted her teeth, pushed, screamed, fought, and then a second cry. Higher, clearer, fiercer. A girl, slippery, pink, furious, already kicking like she had things to say and no time for nonsense. Marta laughed, wild, joyful, ancient. "Oh, she's got your fire, child. That one's gonna burn the world down and rebuild it better." Livia took her daughter into her arms, smaller than her brother, but louder, eyes flying open almost immediately, locking onto her mother's face like she was memorizing it. "My girl," Livia whispered, voice trembling. "My wild, wonderful girl." She looked at Daniel, still holding his son, now staring at his daughter like he'd been struck by lightning. "Come here," she whispered. He knelt beside the bed, babies cradled in his arms, tears still falling. Livia reached out, placed one hand on her son's head, the other on her daughter's. Then, she took Daniel's hand, pressed it over both of them. "Say their names," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes wide, terrified, awestruck. I didn't think." "Say them," she insisted. "They're yours. Say their names." He swallowed, looked down at the tiny faces. "Our son," he whispered, voice cracking. Mateo. Livia smiled, small, soft. And our daughter? Daniel looked at her, really looked, saw the fire, the strength, the love. Valentina, he breathed, after your grandmother, the one who taught you to sew, the one who told you stories under the stars. Livia's breath caught. She hadn't told him that. He remembered. He remembered. She closed her eyes, let the tears fall. Marta quietly slipped out, giving them this moment, this sacred, trembling, newborn moment. Daniel leaned down, kissed Livia's forehead, then kissed each baby, gently, reverently, like sealing a vow. I'll never leave you again, he whispered. Any of you, I swear it on their lives, on mine, on every star in the sky. Livia didn't answer, didn't need to, because in that moment, with her children warm on her chest, with Daniel kneeling beside her, broken and beautiful and finally present, she felt it. The shift, the turning, the beginning of something she thought she'd never have. Family, not perfect, not polished, not painless, but hers. And no one, not Augusto, not the past, not the world, could take that away. Not anymore, because these babies, they weren't just miracles. They were weapons. They were proof. They were hers. And she was no longer the woman who was abandoned. She was the woman who gave birth in a storm, who held lightning in her arms, who whispered names into the dark and made them real. And when Augusto came, he wouldn't find a broken girl hiding in the woods. He'd find a queen, on her throne, with her king, finally worthy, kneeling beside her. And her heirs, two tiny, screaming, unstoppable forces of nature, ready to meet him. He didn't speak of Augusto, didn't check his phone, didn't look toward the road. He was here, fully here. And Livia, she watched him, not with suspicion anymore, not with bitterness, but with wonder, because the man who once flinched at his father's voice now stood in the kitchen at dawn, shirtless, stirring oatmeal with one hand while cradling Mateo in the other, whispering, "Shoo, little lion, mama's resting. Let her sleep." The man who once measured his worth in boardroom victories now sat cross-legged on the rug, letting Valentina grip his finger with all her tiny, furious strength, laughing when she yanked. That's my girl, strong already. He was becoming someone new, someone real, someone hers. And she was learning to trust again, not blindly, not foolishly, but bravely, because trust, she realized, wasn't given when the storm passed. It was given in the storm, and this messy, sleepless, milk-stained, miracle-filled storm, it was theirs. Then one morning Marta didn't come. No knock, no basket of herbs, no songs at the door, just silence. Livia felt it before she knew it. A prickle on her neck, a tightening in her chest. The babies fussed more than usual, restless, eyes darting toward the window like they sensed it too. Daniel noticed. "Where's Marta?" he asked, handing her a cup of tea. Livia shook her head. "She's never missed a day." He frowned. "I'll walk down, check on her." She nodded, didn't argue. He left. She paced, rocked Valentina, fed Mateo, watched the clock. 30 minutes, 40, an hour, then footsteps, fast, urgent. Daniel burst through the door, face pale, eyes wild. "She's gone," he gasped. Her house empty, door unlocked, herbs still on the table, bed made, but no note, no sign of struggle, just gone. Livia's blood turned to ice. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." "She wouldn't just leave," Daniel said, voice tight. "Not without telling you. Not without a car engine. Low, smooth, expensive. Coming up the gravel road." They froze, looked at each other. No words needed. "He's here." Livia clutched the babies tighter. Daniel stepped in front of her. Instinctive, protective, trembling but firm. The car stopped. Doors opened. Footsteps on the porch. Then a knock. Not Daniel's hesitant rap. Not Marta's cheerful tap. This knock was measured, commanding, final. Livia didn't move, didn't breathe, Daniel walked to the door, opened it, and there, standing in the morning light, suit pressed, hair silvered, eyes colder than mountain stone, was Augusto Montebello. He didn't smile, didn't greet, just looked past Daniel straight at Livia, and at the two babies in her arms. His gaze lingered, on Mateo's tiny fingers curled around Livia's thumb, on Valentina's wide, furious eyes staring right back at him like she already knew who he was, and already hated him. A muscle twitched in Augusto's jaw. For the first time in his life, the man who commanded boardrooms, who silenced rivals with a glance, who owned empires, looked stunned. He took a step inside. Daniel blocked him. "Don't," Daniel said, voice low, dangerous. "You don't get to walk in here like you own this." Augusto didn't look at him, kept his eyes locked on the babies. "Are they?" He began, voice uncharacteristically rough. "Yours by blood." Livia cut in, voice steady, cold. "Not by right, not by claim, not by law. Mine." Augusto finally looked at her, really looked, saw the fire in her eyes, the strength in her spine, the love wrapped around those babies like armor. He didn't speak for a long time. Then, quietly, "They're beautiful." Livia didn't flinch. "They don't need your approval." "I didn't come to approve," he said. "I came to see." "To see what?" Daniel snapped. "If they're worthy, if they're strong enough to carry your name, if they're enough." Augusto's gaze flicked to his son, and for the first time, Daniel didn't look away, didn't bow, didn't break. Augusto exhaled. Slow, heavy, like a man realizing he'd lost something he didn't know he valued. "I came," he said softly, "to see if what I threw away was worth keeping." Livia stood, slowly, carefully, still holding the babies. She walked to him, stopped just inches away, looked him in the eye. "You threw away me," she whispered. "Not them. You judged my body, my worth, my future, and you were wrong, so wrong. And now," she shifted Mateo to one arm, reached out with her free hand, not to strike, not to plead, to point. "Now you're looking at the future you tried to erase, and they don't care about your money, your name, your legacy. They care about me, and if you ever want to hold them ever, you'll start by apologizing. On your knees, to me, not as your daughter-in-law, not as the woman who carried your heirs, but as Livia, the woman you broke, and who rebuilt herself without you." Augusto didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. Valentina chose that moment to let out a loud, indignant wail, like she was echoing her mother's defiance. Augusto flinched, actually flinched. Then slowly he stepped back, toward the door. "I'll come back," he murmured. "No," Livia said firmly. "You'll come back when you're ready to kneel, not before." He looked at her, one last time. Then, without another word, he turned, walked out, got in his car, drove away. Daniel exhaled, long, shaky, like he'd been holding his breath for years. Livia sank into the rocking chair, babies pressed against her chest, heart pounding like a war drum. "He'll be back," Daniel whispered. "I know," she said, "and he'll try to take them. He can try." Daniel knelt beside her, took her hand. "I won't let him." She looked at him, saw the truth in his eyes, saw the man he'd become, saw the father he was choosing to be. She squeezed his hand. "I know," she whispered. Outside, the wind picked up, the trees whispered, and deep in the valley, a single crow took flight, watching, waiting, because Augusto, he hadn't come to surrender. He'd come to scout, to see what he was up against. And what he saw, a queen, a king, and two tiny, screaming heirs, ready for war. And he wasn't ready, not yet, but he would be. And when he returned, it wouldn't be with words, it would be with fire. And Livia, she'd be waiting, with her babies, with her love. No letters, just the wind, the babies' cries, the creak of the rocking chair, the weight of waiting. Livia didn't sleep. Not really. She dozed with Valentina curled against her chest, Mateo's tiny fingers gripping the collar of her nightgown. Daniel pacing the floor like a sentry who knew the enemy was coming. Just not when. They didn't speak of it. Didn't need to. They both felt it, the air thickening. The quiet before the storm. The kind of quiet that doesn't soothe. It warns. Then, on the fourth morning, he came back. Not with lawyers. Not with security. Not with threats. Just himself. No car this time. He walked up the gravel path. Slow, deliberate, shoulders slightly hunched. Like the weight of what he was about to do was already breaking him. Livia saw him first. She was on the porch, wrapped in a shawl, feeding Mateo, Valentina napping in the bassinet beside her. The sun was just rising, painting the mountains gold. The air crisp with the scent of pine and wood smoke. And there he was, Augusto Montebello, billionaire, patriarch, architect of empires, standing at the bottom of her steps, in worn leather shoes, no tie, no coat, just a man, older than she remembered, tired, alone. He didn't speak, didn't climb the steps, just stood there, hands clasped in front of him, eyes fixed on the babies. Livia didn't move, didn't call for Daniel, didn't hide the children. Let him look, let him see. Mateo finished nursing, let out a soft sigh, opened his eyes, big, dark, curious, and stared straight at Augusto, like he knew, like he remembered. Augusto's breath hitched. He took one step forward, then another, stopped at the bottom step, looked up at Livia, and then slowly, painfully, he lowered himself, not to one knee, to both, right there, on the gravel, in the dirt, in front of the cottage, in front of the woman he'd discarded, in front of the grandchildren he'd tried to erase. He didn't speak, didn't beg, didn't offer money, didn't mention legacy, just knelt, head bowed, hands open at his sides, like a man surrendering, like a king dethroned. Livia didn't move, didn't speak, didn't cry, just watched him, watched the most powerful man she'd ever known, the man who dictated boardrooms with a glance, who crushed rivals without blinking, who measured human worth in stock portfolios, kneel in the dust like a beggar at the gates of mercy. Daniel appeared in the doorway, saw his father, froze, didn't intervene, didn't stop him, just stood there, silent witness to the fall of a titan. Minutes passed, birds sang, wind whispered, Valentina stirred in her bassinet, let out a tiny yawn, blinked awake, and, as if sensing the moment, let out a soft coo. Augusto's head lifted just slightly, eyes wet, voice cracked when he finally spoke. I was wrong. 2 words, that's all. But they carried the weight of a lifetime. Livia didn't answer, didn't soften, just stared. He swallowed, looked at the babies. I was wrong about you, he whispered. Wrong about what matters. Wrong about legacy. Wrong about love. A tear slipped free, tracked down his cheek, disappeared into his collar. I thought blood was power. I thought heirs were assets. I thought control was strength. He looked up at her, eyes shattered. I didn't know, I didn't see, that the greatest power was right here, in you, in them, in what you built, without me. Livia's throat tightened. Still, she didn't speak. He lowered his head again. I don't expect forgiveness, he murmured. I don't deserve it. But if you'll let me, I want to know them, not as Montebello heirs, not as future shareholders, as my grandchildren, as Mateo and Valentina, as the miracles I almost destroyed. Silence, heavy, sacred. Then Valentina let out a giggle, soft, sweet, unexpected. Augusto's head snapped up, eyes wide, like he'd never heard anything so beautiful. Livia finally moved. She stood, slowly, carefully, held Mateo against her chest, walked to the edge of the porch, looked down at the man who had broken her, who had exiled her, who had tried to erase her worth, and whispered, voice trembling, not with fear, but with something deeper, fiercer, holier. You want to know them? He nodded once, frail, humble. Then you start by learning their favorite songs. He blinked, Songs? Yes. She stepped down one step, then another, until she stood before him. You start by learning how Valentina likes to be rocked. Fast or she screams. You start by learning that Matteo hates the color yellow, cries every time he sees it. You start by showing up. Not with lawyers, not with contracts, with presence, with patience, with humility. She leaned down just slightly, and you never ever speak of taking them again. Not in whispers, not in boardrooms, not in your sleep. You let go of ownership, or you let go of them. He didn't hesitate. I let go. Her breath caught. Say it again. I let go of ownership. His voice broke. They're not mine to claim. They're yours to raise. And if you let me, I'll earn the right to love them. She studied him, saw the truth in his eyes, saw the grief, saw the regret, saw the man beneath the empire. And for the first time, she didn't see the monster. She saw the grandfather, broken, begging, beginning. She didn't smile, didn't embrace him, didn't forgive him, but she didn't turn away. Instead, she shifted Matteo to one arm, reached down, took Augusto's hand, and placed it gently, deliberately on her son's back. Augusto trembled, fingers hovering, afraid to press, afraid to breathe. Feel that, Livia whispered. That's his heartbeat. That's his life. That's your second chance. Augusto closed his eyes. A sob escaped him, quiet, shattered, sacred. He pressed his palm lightly against Matteo's tiny back, felt the rise, the fall, the steady, stubborn beat of a life he almost never knew. And then Valentina let out another giggle. Augusto turned, looked at her, and for the first time in decades, he smiled. Not the cold, calculated smile of a CEO, but the trembling, tear-streaked smile of a man who had just been handed grace. Livia didn't move, didn't speak, just watched, because forgiveness, that would take time. But this was a beginning. And in that moment, with Augusto kneeling in the dirt, hand on his grandson's back, tears falling like rain, and Valentina giggling like she already knew she'd won, something shifted. Not just in him, in all of them. The war wasn't over, not yet, but the first battle, it was won. Not with swords, not with lawyers, not with money, but with a heartbeat, a giggle, and a single trembling hand, placed gently on a miracle. And Livia, she stood tall, watched the man who broke her kneel before the children she saved, and whispered, so softly only the wind could hear, welcome to the reckoning, Augusto. But intention, the kind that hums beneath skin, that lingers in glances, that coils in the air like a snake waiting to strike. Augusto came back, not once, not twice, every Tuesday, like clockwork, no entourage, no assistants, just him, in the same worn shoes, the same quiet suit. He arrived at 10 a.m., stayed exactly 2 hours. Sat in the rocking chair Livia had dragged onto the porch, never inside. Not yet, not until she said so. He watched, he listened, he learned. How Matteo scrunched his nose when he was about to cry. How Valentina kicked her legs like she was marching to a war drum only she could hear. He brought books, not financial reports, not legal documents, children's books. Goodnight Moon, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. He read them aloud, voice stiff at first, then softer, warmer, like he was remembering how to be human. He didn't ask to hold them, not yet, didn't push, didn't plead, just showed up. And Livia, she watched him, every Tuesday, from the window, from the doorway, from the garden. She didn't trust him, not fully, not yet, but she didn't turn him away, because something had changed, not just in him, in her. She wasn't the woman who trembled at his voice anymore. She was the woman who made him kneel, who made him wait, who made him earn. And that power settled in her bones, quiet, unshakable, sacred. Daniel noticed. Of course he did. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Matteo asleep on his chest, Valentina curled against Livia's side. He spoke softly, eyes fixed on the flames. "He's trying, Livia." She didn't answer right away, just stroked Valentina's hair. Soft, dark, wild, like her spirit. "I know," she finally whispered. "He's different." She looked at him. "Different how?" Daniel exhaled. "Softer, quieter, like he's grieving the man he used to be." Livia studied him. "Do you miss him? The old Augusto?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "No, I hated him, but I miss having a father, even a broken one." Her heart cracked, just a little. She reached out, took his hand, squeezed. They sat in silence for a long time. Then, Daniel spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. "I sold the penthouse." Livia turned. "What?" "The penthouse. In the city. The one father bought me when I turned 30. I sold it. Last week." She stared at him. "Why?" He looked down at Matteo, tiny, peaceful, trusting. "Because I don't want him to grow up in glass towers. I don't want Valentina to learn how to smile for cameras before she learns how to laugh for joy." He looked up at her, eyes blazing with quiet fire. "I want them to know dirt under their nails, wind in their hair, fireflies at dusk. I want them to know you, not the version of you that fit into his world. The real you, the wild you, the warrior you." Tears filled her eyes. She didn't speak, didn't need to. He leaned closer. "I'm not him, Livia. I never want to be. And if that means walking away from everything, the name, the money, the empire, then I will. Gladly, happily, for you, for them." She placed her hand over his, the one cradling their son. "I know," she whispered, and she did. Because the man who once measured his worth in stock options now measured it in baby giggles and lullabies and the way Valentina gripped his finger like she was never letting go. He was hers, fully, finally, that night. After the babies were asleep, after Daniel had kissed her forehead and whispered, "I love you," like a vow, Livia sat at the kitchen table, alone, candle flickering, wind sighing through the pines. She opened the drawer, pulled out the letter, the one she'd written weeks ago before the birth, before Augusto knelt, before Daniel sold the penthouse, before everything changed. She unfolded it, read it again, her own words, raw, trembling, full of grief and fury and fragile, desperate hope. "Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I trusted you enough to give you a second chance. Or maybe I'm gone. Maybe I couldn't survive the weight of your silence. Maybe I let the world break me. But if you're here, if you're holding this, then you came back. Not for them, not for your father. For me. I need you to know. I loved you even when you failed me. I loved you when you looked away. I loved you when you let them call me broken. I loved you in the quiet, in the dark, in the places you were too afraid to follow. And if you've changed, if you're here, truly here, not because of the twins, not because of guilt, but because you choose me, then I'm still here too. But if you haven't, if this is just another performance, then burn this letter. Walk away, and never look back, because I won't survive losing you twice." Livia, she stared at it, fingers trembling, heart pounding. Then she folded it, slid it back into the envelope, didn't seal it, didn't burn it, didn't send it, just placed it on the shelf above the fireplace, where Daniel would see it, where he would have to see it. And then, she went to bed, curled around her babies, listened to their breathing, felt their tiny hearts beating against her skin, and whispered into the dark, "Let him choose, let him prove it, let him love us, not because we're miracles, but because we're his." The next morning, Daniel found the letter. He stood in front of the fireplace for a long time, just staring. Didn't open it, didn't touch it, just looked. Then he walked to the nursery, stood in the doorway, watched Livia rock Valentina, watched Matteo sleep in his crib, watched the sunlight spill across the floor like liquid gold. He didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't move, just watched. And when Livia finally looked up, met his gaze, he smiled. Small, soft, real, and whispered, so quietly she almost didn't hear it, "I choose you." Not to the letter, not to the past, to her, to now, to them. And in that moment, she knew. He didn't need to open the letter. He didn't need to read the words. He was already living them. Daniel was inside, washing bottles, humming off key. A habit Livia had once teased him for, now one of her favorite sounds in the world. She stepped onto the porch, mug of tea warming her palms, breathing in the scent of earth and wild mint, letting the peace of it sink into her bones. Then a scream, not Valentina's playful shriek, a real scream, raw, terrified, hurt. Livia's heart stopped. She dropped the mug. It shattered on the porch steps. Forgotten. She sprinted, barefoot, through the grass. Valentina! Her daughter was on the ground, curled on her side, face twisted in pain. One tiny hand clutching her forehead, blood already trickling between her fingers. Beside her, the old stone bird bath, tipped over. At sharp, Livia fell to her knees. Baby, baby, look at me, look at Mama. Valentina whimpered, eyes fluttering, tears mixing with blood. Livia pressed her palm to the wound, gentle, desperate, trying to stop the bleeding, trying not to panic, trying not to scream. Daniel! She yelled, voice breaking. Daniel! He came running, barefoot, shirt half-buttoned, eyes wide with terror. What happened? The bird bath, she must have climbed. It fell. She's bleeding, Daniel, she's bleeding. He dropped beside them, took one look, face paled. We need to get her to a hospital. Now. Livia shook her head, frantic. Nearest one is 40 miles. She's losing blood. Look at her, Daniel, she's pale. Valentina let out a weak cry, small, broken, nothing like her usual roar. Daniel scooped her up, careful, trembling, pressed a clean cloth from his pocket to her forehead. We'll drive. I'll go 80 if I have to. Livia stood, shaking, wild-eyed. No, wait, her blood type. It's rare. AB negative. Remember? Marta told us. The hospital won't have it. Not enough. Not for a baby. Daniel froze, looked at her, looked at Valentina. Tiny, limp, bleeding in his arms. AB negative. Rare. Dangerous. And then, Livia whispered the words she'd sworn she'd never say again. Call him. Daniel stared. What? Augusto. His private clinic, they keep reserves. For emergencies. For him. Call him. Now. Daniel didn't argue. Didn't hesitate. Pulled out his phone with one hand. Still cradling Valentina with the other. Dialed. One ring. Two. Father. It's Daniel. Valentina's hurt. Head wound. Bleeding. AB negative. We need blood. Now. Pause. Then, Augusto's voice. Sharp. Urgent. Stripped of all pretense. Where are you? I'll have the helicopter there in 10 minutes. Tell them to keep her warm. Keep her still. I'm coming. The line went dead. Livia didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stared at her daughter. So small, so fragile, so fierce. Now silent in Daniel's arms. Mama! Valentina whispered, eyes fluttering open, dazed, scared, reaching for her. I'm here, baby, Livia choked out, pressing her lips to her daughter's forehead, blood, sweat, tears mingling. I'm right here. Hold on. Just hold on. Daniel held her tighter. You hear that, Val? Mama's here. Daddy's here. We've got you. You're gonna be okay. I promise. She whimpered, closed her eyes. Livia's heart shattered. Then the sound, distant at first, growing louder, faster. Thump, 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 thump. Helicopter blades slicing through the sky. Augusto, coming. Not as a billionaire. Not as a patriarch. As a grandfather. The chopper landed in the field behind the house, kicking up dust, shaking the trees, sending birds scattering like startled prayers. Augusto jumped out before the rotors even slowed. No suit jacket, tie askew, face ashen, eyes wild with fear. He sprinted toward them, stumbled on the uneven ground, caught himself, kept running. Where is she? Daniel turned, held Valentina out like an offering. Augusto stopped dead, stared at his granddaughter, blood on her face, eyes closed, breathing shallow, his face crumpled. "Oh God," he whispered. "Oh God, no." He dropped to his knees beside them, not for show, not for forgiveness, for her. "Valentina," he breathed, voice trembling. "Sweetheart, look at me. Open your eyes, please." She didn't move. Livia grabbed his arm, fingers digging in, voice raw. "The blood. Do you have it?" He nodded, sharp, frantic. "On the chopper. 2 units. More on the way." He turned to the medic jumping out behind him. "Get her on board. Now." They moved fast, gentle, practiced, urgent. Livia climbed in after them, didn't ask permission, didn't wait, just climbed in, took Valentina from Daniel's arms, held her close as they strapped her to the stretcher. Daniel climbed in after her. Augusto hesitated just for a second, then climbed in last. The chopper lifted off, shaking, roaring, rising. Livia didn't look out the window, didn't look at Augusto, just held Valentina, whispered to her, sang to her, begged her, "Stay with me, baby. Stay with Mama. You're so brave, so strong. Don't you leave me. Don't you dare leave me." Augusto sat across from them, silent, shaking, eyes locked on his granddaughter. Then quietly he reached out, not to take her, not to claim her, just to hold her tiny foot, gently, reverently, like she was made of glass, like she was the most precious thing he'd ever touched. Daniel watched him, didn't stop him, didn't speak, just held Livia's hand, squeezed, hard. The chopper banked, heading toward the city, toward the clinic, toward hope, toward fear, toward the unknown. And as Valentina's breathing slowed, shallow, weak, terrifying, Augusto whispered, voice breaking, "I'm here, little one. Grandfather's here, and I'm not letting go." Livia didn't look at him, didn't thank him, didn't forgive him. But when Valentina's tiny fingers twitched, weak, searching, and brushed against Augusto's thumb, Livia didn't pull her away. She just held her closer. Daniel sat beside her, hand on her back, thumb rubbing slow circles, eyes red-rimmed, jaw clenched so tight Livia could hear his teeth grinding. Augusto stood by the window, arms crossed, face pale, gaze fixed on nothing. He hadn't spoken since they landed, hadn't demanded updates, hadn't called his lawyers, hadn't barked orders at the staff, just stood, like a man waiting for judgment. The surgeon came out, white coat, mask dangling around his neck, eyes tired. Livia stood so fast her knees cracked. Daniel caught her elbow. Augusto turned, slow, stiff, like every movement cost him. The surgeon looked at them, not at Augusto first, not at Daniel, at Livia. "She's stable," he said. Livia's legs nearly gave out. Daniel gripped her tighter. The surgeon continued. The cut was deep, needed 12 stitches, but no skull fracture, no internal bleeding. "We transfused 2 units, she responded well. "She's sleeping now. You can see her in 10 minutes. Livia didn't breathe, didn't move, just whispered, "Can I hold her?" The surgeon nodded. Gently. "She's groggy." But she asked for Mama when she woke up. Livia sobbed. Once, sharp, shattered, then pressed her fist to her mouth to silence herself. Daniel pulled her into his arms, held her tight, whispering, "She's okay. She's okay, Livia. Our girl's okay." Augusto didn't move, didn't speak, just watched them, watched her, watched the way Livia trembled, not with weakness, but with raw, feral, maternal power. The way she clung to Daniel, not for comfort, but for strength. The way her eyes burned with a fire that could melt steel. He looked small, smaller than Livia had ever seen him. Then the nurse appeared. "You can come in, one at a time." Livia didn't hesitate, walked past Augusto like he wasn't there, didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him, just walked into the room. And there, small, pale, bandaged, but alive, was Valentina, eyes half-lidded, lips parted, tiny chest rising and falling. Livia fell to her knees beside the bed. "Baby," she whispered, voice breaking. "Oh, my wild, wonderful girl. You scared Mama so bad." Valentina stirred, opened her eyes, just a slit, saw her mother, let out a tiny, sleepy sigh. "Mama," Livia choked back a sob, pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead. Above the bandage, above the stitches, above the scar that would fade but never disappear. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm right here, and I'm never letting you out of my sight again." Valentina's tiny hand fluttered, weak, searching. Livia took it, held it, kissed each fingertip. "You're so brave," she murmured. "So strong, just like your mama, just like your daddy." Valentina's eyes drifted shut again, but she smiled. Just a little, just enough. Livia didn't move, didn't breathe, just held her hand, listened to her breathe, felt her heartbeat. Alive, alive. Daniel came in next, sat beside the bed, took Valentina's other hand, leaned down, kissed her cheek. "Hey, little warrior," he whispered. "You gave us a scare, but you're tougher than all of us put together, aren't you?" Valentina didn't open her eyes, but she squeezed his finger, just once. Daniel's breath hitched. He looked at Livia, eyes glistening. "She's gonna be okay," he whispered. Livia nodded. "She has to be." He didn't argue, didn't reassure, just held his daughter's hand and waited. Then Augusto appeared in the doorway, didn't enter, didn't speak, just stood there, shoulders hunched, hands clasped, eyes fixed on Valentina. Livia saw him, didn't turn away, didn't invite him in, didn't tell him to leave, just watched him, watched the way his throat bobbed, watched the way his fingers trembled, watched the way his eyes, cold, calculating, ruthless for decades, now shimmered with something raw, something broken, something human. He took one step forward, then another, stopped at the foot of the bed, looked down at his granddaughter, whispered, voice cracked, barely audible. "You're going to be all right, little one. I won't let anything hurt you again. I swear it." Livia didn't move, didn't speak, didn't stop him. But when he reached out, slowly, reverently, to brush a strand of hair from Valentina's forehead, she didn't pull her daughter away. She just watched. Watched the man who tried to erase her. Watched the man who knelt in the dirt. Watched the man who called in a helicopter, emptied his private blood bank, stood silent in a sterile room while his granddaughter fought for breath. And for the first time, she didn't see the monster. She saw the grandfather, terrified, humbled, changed. They let him stay, not because they forgave him, not because they trusted him, but because Valentina, in her drugged, sleepy, half-conscious state, reached for him, not with words, with a hand, tiny, weak, but reaching. Augusto froze, looked at Livia, eyes wide, terrified, like he didn't know what to do. Livia nodded once, slow, firm. He stepped closer, took her hand, gently, like she was made of glass. Valentina sighed, content, safe, loved. And Augusto, he wept, quietly, without sound, tears tracking down his cheeks, dripping onto the hospital blanket, soaking into the fabric like rain on parched earth. Livia didn't look away, didn't speak, just watched, because this was the reckoning, not with swords, not with lawyers, not with money, but with a child's hand, and a grandfather's tears. And when Augusto finally looked up, eyes shattered, voice trembling, and whispered, "Thank you for letting me be here." Livia didn't smile, didn't embrace him, didn't forgive him, but she didn't turn him away. Instead, she stood, walked to him, stopped inches away, looked him in the eye, and said, voice low, fierce, trembling with everything she'd survived, everything she'd fought for, everything she'd become, "You didn't save her." He flinched. "You didn't earn her." He closed his eyes. "You didn't deserve her." Tear fell. "But she chose you anyway." He opened his eyes, wet, broken, awestruck. Livia leaned in, close enough that only he could hear. And if you ever break her heart, if you ever try to control her, if you ever make her feel small, she paused. Let the threat hang in the air. Then softly, deadly, I will burn your empire to the ground with my bare hands. He didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't look away, just nodded. Once, firm, final. I know, he whispered, and for the first time in his life, he meant it. They stayed until Valentina woke again, groggy, grumpy, demanding juice and cuddles and Daddy's silly face. They laughed, all of them, even Augusto, even Livia, even Daniel. And in that moment, with Valentina scowling and demanding and alive, with Matteo waiting at home, with the sun breaking through the hospital windows like a promise, something shifted. Not just in Augusto, in all of them. The war wasn't over. Not yet. But the battle? It was won. Not with blood, not with money, but with a child's hand, and a mother's vow, and a grandfather's tears. And Livia, she stood tall, watched the man who broke her hold the child who saved him, and whispered, so softly only the wind could hear. No one asked where she'd been. No one needed to. They all knew. Augusto had taken her, not by force, not by threat, but by silent, unspoken understanding, a trade. Her absence for Valentina's survival, her silence for the blood that saved a life. And when Marta walked into the cottage, set down her basket, and pulled Livia into a hug that smelled of sage and soil and stubborn love, she whispered, I knew you'd bring her back to me. You always do. Livia didn't cry, didn't speak, just held her tight, because some bonds don't need words. They just are. Augusto came back, not on Tuesdays anymore. Every day, early, before sunrise. He parked his car at the edge of the property, never drove up to the house, walked the gravel path like a pilgrim approaching a shrine, brought flowers, not expensive orchids, wildflowers, picked himself, sometimes with dirt still on the stems. He didn't ask to come inside, didn't ask to hold the babies, just sat on the porch steps, rain or shine, and waited. Sometimes Livia let him read to Valentina. Sometimes she let him watch Matteo nap. Sometimes she handed him a cup of tea. No words, just the cup, and let him sit beside her while the twins played in the grass. He never pushed, never demanded, never mentioned the empire, never mentioned the future, just was. And Livia, she watched him, not with suspicion anymore, not with bitterness, but with curiosity, because the man who once measured human worth in stock portfolios now measured joy in baby giggles. The man who once silenced boardrooms with a glance now sat silent for hours, just watching Valentina chase fireflies. The man who once called her a failed investment now looked at her like she was the only miracle he'd ever truly believed in. Then one evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in gold and violet, Augusto didn't leave. He lingered, long after the twins were asleep, long after Daniel had gone inside to wash bottles, long after Marta had disappeared down the road with a knowing smile. He sat on the porch swing alone, staring at his hands, old hands, powerful hands, hands that had signed billion-dollar deals, hands that had shattered lives, hands that had never, until now, held a child without an agenda. Livia stepped outside, didn't speak, just sat beside him. Silence stretched between them, not heavy, not cold, just there. Then Augusto spoke, voice low, rough, raw. I had a daughter. Livia froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. I never told anyone, he continued, eyes fixed on the horizon. Not even Daniel. She was born before I married, before the empire, before all of this. He swallowed. Her mother, she was wild, like you, like Valentina. She didn't want money, didn't want my name, just love. And I was young, arrogant, terrified of anything I couldn't control. He paused, took a shaky breath. I told her to give the baby up, said I'd take care of everything, financially, legally, cleanly. His voice cracked. She refused. said the child was hers, not mine to claim, not mine to discard. Livia's heart pounded. Then what happened? She whispered. He closed his eyes. She left, disappeared, took my daughter with her. I hired investigators, private eyes, spent millions, never found them. He opened his eyes, wet, shattered. I told myself it was for the best, that the empire needed focus. That sentiment was weakness. That blood didn't matter unless it served a purpose. He turned to her, really looked at her. And then, I met you. Livia didn't move, didn't speak, just listened. I saw her in you, he whispered. The fire, the defiance, the refusal to be owned. And I hated it, because it reminded me of what I'd lost, of who I'd failed, of the daughter I never held, the granddaughter I never knew. A tear slipped free, tracked down his cheek, disappeared into his collar. I thought if I controlled you, if I broke you, I could finally bury that ghost. He looked down at his hands. But you didn't break. You bloomed, and you gave.